First of all, John, tell me a little bit about how you became involved with being an egg farmer, chicken farmer.
Well, I guess we've had the property for quite a long time. About 5 years ago, I decided that working in corporate wasn't my thing anymore. For an enterprise other than grazing cattle that works in sync with other enterprises on farm.
Pasture-raised egg versus free-range egg, what's the difference?
The key difference is that these hens get moved every week, sometimes twice a week, onto new pasture. You can see in the distance there where they've been previously.
Yeah.
So what we get is hundreds of mini farmers dropping manure where we want it, enhancing the soil, and as you can see, happy, healthy chooks that are doing what chooks do. Fixed-shedded hens, as you know, the area around where the hens are soon becomes just a dirt patch, a dust bowl. By monitoring how big an area they're on and how often we move them, we can keep the pasture at a good length so that once they've moved off, we get the pasture bounces back. So it also means that we're not using any pesticides or herbicides, not using any artificial fertilisers.
Yeah.
We're starting to use the combination of the chooks, the cattle grazing and the chooks moving through to improve our land. They're fed a grain mix that has no GM modified material and no soy. So they get about 70% of their nutrition from the grain and about 30% from the bugs and the grass and whatever they find in the
just foraging.
Yeah, just foraging in the paddocks. We just have customers all day, every day saying that they can just taste the difference in our egg. It's the fact that the chooks get to do what chooks do, and they don't just have feed to work from. They get to select from the paddock what they want to eat. That has a big impact on their health and a big impact on the quality of the egg.
So how do you keep the hens safe on the property, John?
The key to keeping the hens safe is having multiple protection mechanisms. Portable electric fence loops that we have around the hens in combination with using Maremma dogs. So we have Maremma dog or two with each bunch of hens, and in the 4 years that we've had hens on this property, touch wood, no fox troubles. You can see we've got scrub nearby, and there's clearly, like everywhere else, we have plenty of foxes, but we've never had any penetrate the boundary.
Yeah, they're kept nice and safe.
Yeah.
And at night, the hens will make their way inside?
Yep. When the hens first come onto the farm, we train them to roost in the trailers, and then over the first week, once that's done, every night all of the hens will find their spot in a trailer and roost in there.
Yeah.
And then depending on weather, sometimes we close it down overnight, sometimes we leave it open, and then the night before we shift the hens, we close them in so that we shift them at first light and then let them out in the, it's like a cruise ship for chooks.
Perfect, what a life.
They pretty much lay an egg a day.
Just one egg?
One egg.
On
average, one egg per chook per day. Inside the caravan is custom nesting boxes that they go into and lay their eggs. Obviously, early on when they're young, we do a fair bit of training, popping them into the nesting boxes so they get the idea of laying in the nesting boxes. We obviously still get a few ground eggs, but Maremmas don't mind eating up the ground egg. They tend to get gobbled
makes
up
their
by
coat shiny.
Exactly, yeah, a bit of hard food and a few eggs. That's on the menu for them. These vans are purpose built for roosting and for egg laying, and then each day from about mid-morning till early afternoon, someone comes out and collects the eggs from each van and takes them back to the cool room on farm before they're taken into our grading centre at Wollonga to be graded and packed. We collect for a few days, stored on farm, because we grade at Wollonga Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so the eggs are kept from there for the next grading.
Customers at the market, when they're buying eggs, they're coming from the farm.
That week.
Yeah, fantastic. So as fresh as can be.
Fresh as can be, yeah.
Terrific, that's awesome.
We buy the hens in as pullets at 16 weeks of age.
Right.
There's a grow-out farm at Murray Bridge that we buy 16-week-old pullets from, and then we keep them on farm for about 14 months, so a full laying cycle and a bit. And then we sell our hens off to backyarders. You would have seen on Facebook that 3 or 4 times a year we advertise hens for sale, and we don't have any trouble moving them off.
And they'll continue to lay?
Yeah, they'll continue to lay. They just, in their second and third years, they lay less. As they mature, they eat more. But the key thing for us is, on a grading and packing line, it's the eggshell strength that's absolutely critical to efficient grading and packing.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're in a backyard in their second, third, third years, if the eggshell is not quite as strong, it doesn't really matter.
There's been less handling, they're getting picked up and...
All of that.
Katrina, tell me a little bit about the difference in taste and quality of the eggs.
Yeah, well, it's quite funny when people ask me that because we don't actually eat anyone else's eggs, so we think they're pretty good. But our customers tell us, oh, these are the best eggs, and they love them. They love the colour, although the colour isn't always indicative of taste, it's just indicative of what the chook's eaten. But you know what's interesting is when someone deals with a lot of eggs, like soul food, just having good eggshell quality is great when you crack a lot of eggs. And what they've also said is they notice the difference if the hens are being fed soy, they can really smell the difference. Like a pastured phrase, you know, when they've got 80 eggs in a bowl, they can actually notice the difference in, they don't smell the soy. They poach really well. Our chefs will tell them that poaching an egg needs to be a fresh egg. Boil an egg, you can give it 3 or 4 weeks because then it's easier to peel. Fried eggs are pretty forgiving, 2 or 3 eggs. The best before for food safety is 6 weeks. Stored at 14 degrees is optimal, so if you've got a cellar or just a cool pantry, no temperature fluctuation. Most people will keep them in the fridge for that reason. They'll last a very long time.
That direct feedback from your customers, how important is that to you and your business?
It's such an important channel to market. Of course, our eggs are also in supermarkets and big fruit and veg stores and butchers, but when we get that direct feedback and a lot of the questions as well, as particularly about the feed and how happy are those chooks really, they say, oh, I love these eggs, I love what they cook with them, frittatas, and I sort of see a family and they go, I just have 1 dozen, and I'm going, that would last us a day and a half.
Yeah. When customers are buying their eggs at the market, they can't bring back their carton,
no,
but they can bring a carton or a container from home.
Yes, we can't reuse their carton from a food safety perspective, but what some of our customers do, they'll buy a tray's worth and they'll just bring 3 of their egg cartons and decant them in. Yeah. It's really good to store the eggs in an egg carton because that just slows the aging and the evaporation for an egg. So that's the best way to store your eggs is in an egg carton in the fridge to keep them longer.
Yeah. So you have those big trays available there. I can keep my cartons, bring them back. And
you can take the blue trays and decant them at home and bring the trays back and we just swap them. The other thing we have at the market are our googlies, which are ungraded, they're a bit speckly. Sometimes they don't look so great on the outside, but they're perfectly fine on the inside. And we keep them in what I'd call a naked egg carton that we stamp, and they're fully compostable. So they go in your green bin. Other egg cartons, if you're not reusing them, the top can go into your recycling, your bottom can go into your compostable. So egg cartons are fully compostable, but not the sticker.
The eggs come into the farms on this pallet system, which is called Eggs Cargo. The white trays that are on these are what we collect the eggs from at the caravans. So they're collected on the white trays into the cool room at the farm and then brought down on pallets from the farm a couple of times a week in time for grading. So this is where the eggs are loaded onto the grader. This belt moves at about an egg a second. So this machine does about 3,600 eggs an hour. Section here is where the eggs are cleaned with a brush and then run through the stamper here. So all eggs need to be stamped with either a business number or your logo. So you can see each egg is printed with a red F&P. The eggs run through a UV sanitising box here, and then where Joe is working is the egg handling. So bright LED lights. Any eggs that are cracked are discarded into a bucket. Any eggs that are blemished or got odd shells or discoloured go into our googlies for sale at the market.
Yep.
So our grading desk, where the eggs are sorted into 6 different sizes, from 600 gram through to 900 gram, and either cartoned up into dozens or into the trays for the food service sector for restaurants and cafes. The pointy end of the egg is always down so that the yolk is centred in the egg. And we do the same at the caravan, so the eggs are always put in point down.
Yeah. So if you're transferring your eggs in your own sorting way at home,
You
make sure
point
that
down.
pointy egg
Yeah.
end is down.
Particularly if you're hard boiling or whatever, it means the yolk sits nicely in that top part of the egg. So in this area here, they're being boxed into the various sizes. For the reseller market, there's 15 dozen to a box. And in the food service market, there's also 15 dozen to a box, but it's in 6 trays of 30.
Yep.
So all eggs are packaged and
According to where.
into 15 dozen boxes. So 180 eggs, whether it's into food service or retail. Most of the eggs land in the 700 gram category.
Yep.
And in the restaurants and cafe space, they like either a 600 gram egg or a 700 gram egg. And then in the reseller space, it's sort of pretty much 50-50 between buyers who buy a 700 gram egg and an 800 gram egg, with some people buying 600s, particularly the older demographic like the smaller egg.
Yeah.
Just as a rule, families tend to buy the biggest egg you've got.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger, it must be better.
Yeah, well, if you're not working to a recipe, your bigger egg is better. So once the eggs are packed, they're stored in the cool room at 10 degrees. So we do deliveries to the city on Wednesdays and Fridays and the Flurio on Thursdays.
Yeah.